Oh hey, a letter from Hamlet. He's so hunky. Doubt thou the stars are fire, doubt the sun doth move, doubt truth to a liar, but never doubt I love. I love sci-fi. Star Wars, Star Trek, The Last Starfighter, anything with the word star in it. Star Jones.
An educated black woman.
It's Patrick Star.
No! This is Patrick!
You get what I'm saying. So, playing an RPG in a sci-fi setting seems like a no-brainer. Who doesn't want to zoom through the cosmos, meet strange beings, or even better, be those strange beings?
I am Optimus Prime.
Monty Cook's The Stars Are Fire by Bruce R. Cordell promises to do just that. The Stars Are Fire is a companion book to the Cypher system rulebook, expanding on those concepts introduced there, but concentrating on the sci-fi setting, or more accurately, focused on space sci-fi. Other sci-fi settings such as cyberpunk and post-apocalyptic settings, they're touched on here, but they're covered with even more depth by these other genre books. Look, sci-fi is too big to be contained by just one book. If you're into world building, creating settings, or want to convert an existing setting to Cypher, this is supposed to help walk you through that process. Before we get into the details, I'm sure you just want to know if the book's good or not, and I give my wholehearted seal of approval for it. If you like the Cypher system, and you're into spacefaring sci-fi, get this. You'll want it. But what if you never heard of Cypher? What if the sci-fi setting you're already playing has an RPG for it? Why use the Cypher system to play your favorite sci-fi setting? Well, the biggest reason is ease of use. Cypher has some good things going for it, like the endurance system, their reliance on just one die, a d20 for almost every single one of the rolls, and an easy-to-use level difficulty system that even integrates the NPCs into it, and a combat system that puts players in control of both attack and defense, letting the game master or the narrator focus on story rather than micromanaging the rules. That's not to say that Cypher is a perfect game. You may find some concepts you want to focus on in your games aren't covered as well by Cypher, especially social encounters. So if you're looking for space trekking lovers, you might need to create your own rules. Not that that isn't encouraged. Cypher is a solid core that you can build on. Let's start with the book's aesthetics, something that I was told I have to add now into my reviews. You see, I don't really care about how glossy the pages are or how flashy the artwork is. I've played amazing stuff with artwork that looks like this, so I don't hold that against an RPG. But many people do. So here's an array of artwork from the book, so you can be the judge. They also supplement their artwork with royalty-free work from NASA. This is part of the White Book Collection, which are a group of genre books to help you create your own setting in Cypher. And I have to say, I love how they look on my shelf. I hope they never get dirty, but I know they will. Still, right now they're clean and uniform, and it just scratches that good itch in my brain. The layout is the same great layout in all the Cypher books, with footnotes in the margins so you can quickly find references, NPCs, and get greater context, which is an aesthetic I can get behind. Now let's talk about what's in this thing. That's what we're all here for, right? You want more pretty pictures? Well, yeah, of course you do. Maybe later, if you're good. The first few chapters are all about getting the world builder to think about the setting they, or you, want to create. You may have an idea, but the book will both challenge that idea and expand on it, asking questions of how much hard science you want in the game, how advanced the technology will be, and will even try to define the subgenre or give an inspiration for a subgenre into places you might not even have thought of. What is a slipstream genre? It's like The Handmaid's Tale? I mean, this book tries to cover everything. I can't keep up. Once you have that all squared away, it proposes some new rules for Cypher, geared specifically towards the sci-fi. Want to give the players the danger of high-speed acceleration like in The Expanse? It's got you covered. Want a slingshot around a black hole? Yep. How about rogue AIs? Can do that too. Most of these rules are straightforward, but you know I'm going to nitpick a rule or two. I just can't help it. I love rule systems and how they affect not just gameplay, but how players feel and interact with these rules. I'm going to start with psionic abilities. This rule system is put here for any game where the characters can be latent size, no matter what their actual class is. This is for people who have not had formal training, but rather are either self-taught or just never devoted themselves to it. Think of Star Wars and those who either dropped out of the Jedi Order or are Force sensitive but they're not Jedi. To get one of these powers, all the player needs to do is spend 3 XP for a long-term benefit, and with the narrator's permission and probably an in-story reason, they can gain an ability, low tier at first. To activate these powers, the PC must spend all stat pool costs and spend at least 10 minutes to activate it. But sometimes, you need to do it in a pinch. Then, instead, you can mark off a recovery roll. I must say, I do like this rule. It puts a huge cost on the superpowers, making them game changers. I can see this rule being used in games where superpowers can be very rare and hard to use. Kind of like a paranormal investigator who no one believes he has remote viewing because it takes him like so long or so much effort to do it, and he looks like he gets an aneurysm when he tries. This rule can get a bit hairy with trained scions. They can buy these powers as well, but now they have powers with training and those without. And they can swap those powers from the trained category to the untrained category. It's a little confusing, but I think it's an okay rule. They also have rules for post-humans, you know, half man, half machine, all biologically engineered. Here you can get new abilities and power shifts, like you can get in superhero games. So they are a bit extreme. I won't go into detail about what power shifts are here, since I want to review Claim the Sky. Let's just say Superman has a few power shifts. Now let's get into the most complex rule in all of Cypher: vehicular combat. If you followed me for a while, you know I have a love-hate relationship with complex rules. There's a delicate balance between realism, fun mechanics, and ease of use. You can be the judge of how well they did. So let's get into it, right? Let's bring out the Space Combat Status Tracker. You excited? Simplified as much as possible, when your character is making a roll in their vehicle against an enemy vehicle, which I'm just going to call a ship here because this is a sci-fi. We're all in ships, right? You get your TN by taking the enemy ship's level, subtracting it against your ship's level, and then adding that number to the level of the enemy ship. This equation right here, somewhere around here. This is further modified by what you or your opponent is then targeting on that ship. So let's say your crew is in their level 3 space freighter, and they're trying to get away from a level 5 warship, and they decide to take evasive maneuver against that incoming fire. 5 minus 3 is 2, so you add 2 to 5, and you get 7. The PCs must make a level 7 or 21 or greater on their D20 roll, which is impossible unless you have skill or use some effort. If the PCs were in the warship and they were firing on the freighter, it would then be 3 minus 5, which is negative 2, which you add to the level of their ship, which is 3, which makes the difficulty 1, which means you only need to roll a 3 on a D20. You can see how the power scaling here is a little off. Are you still with me? Because there's more. You just can't shoot another ship. Instead, you have to target a part of the ship because ships don't have hit points. So now the PC freighter wants to disable the warship's weapons. That bumps up the level by 2 to a level 9. That's a 27 on a D20. That's not to say there aren't bonuses you can get. Targeting computers, aiming for a round, using multiple weapon systems and coordination, these can give you assets. But remember, you can only benefit from 2 assets in a roll. The best thing is when 2 or more ships attack in a wing, because then the roll is eased, which is basically an asset, but it doesn't have a limit on how many you can benefit from. And that's the basic Starship rules. Yeah, that's what's in the actual just regular Cypher book. Stars Are Fire then adds to that. Yeah, I know, right? Okay, let's get to it. First thing, it adds tech ratings. Those that have a higher tech rating increases their level by 2 for every step difference, or if you go down, reduces the level by 2. So let's say the PC's freighter is targeting the warship's weapons, but the PCs activate their newly installed super tech from an ancient race of energy beings. Since it's a tech rating 1 step above the warship, it eases the level by 2, so it brings the roll back down to a level 7, or we're back to a 21 on a d20. Yeah, much more manageable. That brings us to the biggest rule change in vehicles, red line. The premise here is that the PCs decide to do something dangerous. Flying right for the enemy bridge, going into an asteroid field, using a solar prominence to yada yada sci-fi stuff. The mechanic here is one of the PCs on board spends an XP to ease all of the rolls for the rest of the combat, but it also increases the GM intrusion on that roll by 2. So, instead of rolling a 1, it becomes a 1 to 3 for a GM intrusion. This can be done multiple times, so 2 XP can bring a warship from a level 7 to a level 5. That's a success on a 15 or greater, but GM intrusions happen on a roll of 1 to 5. On the one hand, this is kind of fun, a neat risk-reward mechanic that can really drive suspense. On the other hand, it seems like they were trying to make up for the fact that a low-level ship can get outclassed easily, extremely fast. It's like they had to put a band-aid on an unbalanced rule. Also, dipping into players' XP to do this is really painful, especially when none of the players want to spend that XP and someone finally says, "Fine, I'll do it." There is more vehicle stuff like piloting rolls and bridge combat, but I gotta get to the other stuff in the book. There's an entire setting we have to discuss. The Revel, a full-fledged setting that spans 8 chapters. It's a great example of a hard science fiction that tries to use very little fantastic elements, so everything feels like it could be a legitimate future. Trust me, watch some YouTube videos about Venetian sky colonies or asteroid mining. I'm sure Neil deGrasse Tyson has to say something about it.
I can't, don't even.
This setting did its homework. You got corporate space stations, lunar colonies, and even a few exoplanets colonized. The crux of the setting is the quiet Earth, a mystery about a calamity where great clouds cover the Earth. All communication is lost. Any ships that go down below the clouds are lost forever. Some believe that newly discovered ancient caves on the moon have something to do with this, but nobody really knows. Intrigued? Yeah, I think it's a great hook. And no, I'm not spoiling it here. If you want to know, go get the book. Or even better, have your narrator run this setting for you. The book does have a few adventures, but none that are tied directly to this mystery, or even set the players in that direction, which is a shame, but I think they're trying to write these adventures so they could be repurposed for any sci-fi space adventure. On one hand, that's great, so narrators have a bunch of work already done for them. But on the other, it gives these adventures a more generic feeling. The largest adventure is literally monsters on a derelict spacecraft that leads to a science base with more monsters. Come on! I love this setting, so I want them to revisit it with maybe a full adventure path. But I've never seen them follow up on any of the settings in these white books, so I'm not going to hold my breath. Other than that, you've got a good selection of gear, vehicles, and artifacts, a bunch of new creatures and NPC archetypes, everything ready to be dragged and dropped into your own creation. No new ciphers, though. I guess the current batch are sci-fi enough? I haven't gone over everything with a fine-tooth comb for balance, but then these are just tools for the narrators, and they have to make their own judgment calls on what goes in and what they keep out. A couple are pretty cool, though. The Stars Are Fire. Yeah, I recommend it. It takes the Cypher's easy-to-run game system and expands it for your spacefaring game. Combine it with Godforsaken to make spelljamming games. Combine it with Claim the Sky for Guardians of the Galaxy. Combine it with Stay Alive for Dead Space. That's good, right? Tell me what you thought of this review with a thumb and a comment. I'll be doing more of this, so subscribe if you want to see that. Buy me a coffee on Patreon if you're so inclined. I also have some stuff, some RPG stuff that I've written there, and you might want to check that out. It's good stuff. Adventures, new rules, that sort of thing. I'll see you in the next video. In the meantime, don't forget to go roll some dice.